Hello, welcome back to our acetate window album tutorial. This is going to be the last part, so we are going to finish it in this video. So what you're going to need first, because we're going to be working on pages 7 and 8, you're going to need a piece of your heavy cardstock that's 8 1/4 by 7 3/4. And then on the 8 1/4 side, you're going to score at half and at 1. All right, and we're just going to burnish down our 1-inch score mark right now. Okay, so we're going to set that aside, and we are going to work on our little flap that's going to come out on this side of the page. Okay, so for that you need a piece of your heavy cardstock that's 5 by 7 3/4, and on the 5-inch side you're going to score at half and at 3/4. And again, I'm just going to burnish the 3/4 one right now, just because it's easier to work on it flat. All right, so now we can set this side aside for a second. So we are going to work on our spinning waterfall mechanism. Okay, so we are going to need a piece of our heavy cardstock that's 3 1/2 by 7 1/2. Then you're going to need one that is 1 by 3 1/2. And then you're going to need a piece of your pattern paper that is 3/4 by 3 1/4. And I'm just gonna grab a scissor, and I'm going to just do a little tag snip on my little piece of pattern paper, and then I'm gonna glue that onto the cardstock that's 1 by 3 1/2. I'm just using my Fabri-Tac for that. So just glue it on there. Just get this out of the way so I can see better. Just like this. All right, so then I'm going to take again and snip across here and snip across here. And then I'm going to glue this whole piece to the top of my 3 1/2 by 7 1/2 cardstock. So just get your glue. Again, you can use whatever kind of glue you want, whatever you like to use, and just center it. Like it should go side to side, and you're going to push it all the way to the top. Okay, just like this. And then we're just going to snip in line with that first cardstock piece we did, so that all lines up. Okay, just like this. All right, so next you're going to need 4 pieces of your heavy cardstock that are 3 1/2 by 5, and on the 5-inch side you're just going to score it 1/2 inch. So you need 4 of the same, and this will be all in the cutting guide for you. I'm going to post the cutting guide below if you want to check that out on my Etsy shop. It's a great time to get started with it, since we've got all of our parts done and you can just spin right through it. All right, so now all of these little flaps are going to get attached right here below that first one that we put on, and I'm going to use my art glitter glue for that. So I'm just going to add the glue to these little 1/2-inch sections. And just place it right below that cardstock, that 1-inch piece of cardstock that we put on. And make sure it lines up all the way down on both sides, because if your first one's wonky, they will all be wonky. Just like this. And then I can open that up and burnish it. And then the next one's going to go right below it, but I always like to dry fit it, so put it there. And then close it and make sure it's straight. And then we can add our glue to this one. And just make sure it stays aligned with the piece that you're attaching it to, okay? That's the most important part. And burnish. All right, so we're looking good. So now we'll do our next one. I kind of sometimes like to burnish again before I get started. All right, and then this one goes right below the previous one, and then close them down and make sure they're staying lined up. And then we'll do our final one. And it's going to go right below this one. And again, make sure it stays lined up with that piece, with your original larger piece. All right, and then you can just kind of burnish those. All right, and then we'll go ahead and attach this piece right now too. So this one measures 1.5 by 4 3/4, and on the 4 3/4 side, you're gonna score at 1/2 inch. And I'm just gonna burnish it just like this and add my glue to it. And I'm just going to center it on my black piece, the main black piece that we attached our flaps to, all the way to the bottom, and try to make sure that it's centered on both sides, or centered in between. All right, and then you can burnish that just like this. All right, so now we can actually go ahead and add our magnet for the closure. So I don't have any of my smaller magnets, but I would definitely suggest you use smaller ones. These are the bigger basic gray ones. And yes, they're very strong, but they're very strong. So I don't know, it's definitely not necessary to have them this size. So these already have a sticky back to them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the backing off of one of them, and I'm going to place it on top of this flap, okay? Like on top of this one that we just attached. And then I'm gonna remove my backing, and I'm gonna open up this top one, and I'm gonna press it to the back of it, because I don't want whatever I put on here to be covered by my flap. So this way it has the closure there, but it's not in the way of my whatever decoration I'm gonna do here. All right, so now we can go ahead and attach our little waterfall mechanism to the pattern paper, and you do have to do this before you glue it down. So the piece of pattern paper you need measures 4 by 7.5, and I have here like just a foam that I can poke into, and I'm gonna put it on here, and then I'm going to line up my little mechanism, and it's gonna line up all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom, and it'll have about 1/4 inch of space on both sides. Then I'm gonna take my poking tool and try your best to center it, and I'm gonna poke all the way through, and then I'm going to put a brad through. So this is a bit of a larger brad, it's a 1/4 inch brad. It doesn't have to be this big, you can use a smaller brad, that's completely your choice. And then this whole thing will just swing out. All right, so now we're gonna put this little piece aside, and I'm gonna grab my flap that we did earlier. So it was the one that was 5 by 7 3/4. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get my main base page, and I'm gonna make sure that my attaching hinges are on this side. And then this one is going to get attached on this side. So let's go ahead now and fold over that second score line. So we've got the first and second score line folded and burnished. So now we will miter these little corners to hide our construction. So this is just on the 1/2 inch section, not on the 1/4 inch section. And then I will add my glue. So I'm just using my art glitter glue to attach this. So I'm just adding my glue to it all over that 1/2 inch section, get in the corners. And then I'm gonna lay it down all the way along this front edge, and I'm laying down that 1/4 inch gusset, okay? You don't wanna glue that, that has to stay up. And it's gonna go all the way, top and bottom, and all the way lined up with this side over here. So just look at it at the back, make sure it's not sticking over anywhere, and then we'll burnish it. All right, so now our little mechanism that we created is gonna go on the inside here, okay? So it's not going on the front of the flap. I guess you could if you wanted to, but in my design, it goes on the inside here. So before I glue it down, I'm just going to secure my brad with a little bit of glue, or sorry, with a little bit of tape. So just put some tape on it, and then you can take something like this, is just the back of my pokey tool, and kind of press that brad flatter. So I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac to attach this. Just get it all over it. And it's going to go right on the inside here. So this will still be able to swing open, so you can put your pictures in either direction that you want, and just press that glue down nicely, just like this. And I can swing this open so I can press better here. All right, so now we just need to mat this whole inside and outside. So for the inside here, so this is underneath our flap here, you need a white mat that measures 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and this is just the lightweight white, and it's going to go right here. Then you need a strip of pattern paper that's 5/8 by 7 1/2, and that's going to go here. Then you need another white mat that's 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and it's going to go here. Then you need some pattern paper that's 3 1/4 by 2, and that's going to go right there. And then for the top of this flap here, you're going to need a mat again that's 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and a piece of pattern paper that's 3 by 4, and they're going to layer together, and that's going to go right here. And then for under here, for the top of this, you're going to need a piece of your pattern paper that's 1 1/4 by 4, and that's going to go here. And then for these 3 flaps and the bottom right here, you need 4 pieces of pattern paper that measure 1 by 3 1/4, and they're just going to go along the bottoms of all of these. And then for the front here, you're going to need a white mat that's 4 by 4, and that's going to go right here. And then you need a pattern paper mat that's 3 3/8 by 4. All right, so I'm just going to get that all glued on. All right, so that is our inside and outside of page 7 matted. So let's go on to page 8. All right, so for that we need a piece of our heavy black cardstock for our pocket. That's 8 1/4 by 4 1/4. On the 8 1/4 side, you're going to score it 1/2 inch on both sides. And on the 4 1/4, you're just going to score 1/2 inch on one side. And then we can go ahead and fold and burnish these with our bone folder. Just like this. All right, and then we will cut across these corners. So you want to cut right below where our score lines intersect, just like that. All right, so this pocket is going to go at the bottom here. So it's going to go right across here. So I always like to burnish again from the top. That is how I get my flattest pockets. And then I'm just going to add glue just to my bottom flap here first. Just like this. And we will attach it all the way to the bottom and all the way to the outside. It should go across, like all the way across, but make sure it's flush with the outside. And all the way to the bottom. All right, so then we'll open it up and attach our glue, or put our glue on these little flaps. And glue those down. And now you can burnish it. Just like this. All right, so now let's attach our pattern paper and put our insert in. So for this pocket here, the top of it, you're gonna need a piece of pattern paper that's 3 1/2 by 7, and that's gonna go here. And then for the back of on our main page, you're gonna need a piece that's 4 1/2 by 7, and that is gonna go right here. And then our insert is 5 1/2 by 7, and then the insert layer is 5 1/4 by 6 3/4. So I'm just gonna get that all glued on. All right, so we have got it all glued in there. So the next thing I want to do is take my 3/8 score tape and place a strip of it on the first 1/2 inch section of the main base page, because we're going to be combining glue with tape for attaching these. I just find after some trial and error that is the strongest adhesion that I get. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press down that 1/2 inch score line that we did not initially press down. All right, and then I'm going to grab my other pages that I have already attached that score tape to, and I am going to just burnish these as well. All right, so we're going to start by attaching what I made as page 7 and 8. And it's just going to go right along the spine back here. So you're going to want to put it right along this spine, right along where it bends, but not over top of it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glue. So this is just my art glitter glue. And I'm going to start about 1/4 inch down from the top. And I'm just going to put some glue down. And I'm going to stop about 1/4 inch from the bottom, okay? Then I'm going to remove a little bit of my backing from my tape. And I'm going to fold it back so that I can see it here. And then I'm going to try not to fully put the tape or put it down on top of it because I don't want it on top of my tape, or sorry, on top of my glue. And just line it up along your spine. Make sure you have about 1/8 of an inch top and bottom. And then you can kind of press it down like this. And then just pull the rest of that tape out. All right, and then we are going to just burnish this down. So I will just use my bone folder for that. All right, and then we're gonna grab page 5 and 6. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna get my glue and I'm gonna put it right along there. Try to keep it about 1/4 inch wide and don't go all the way to the top or the bottom. And I'm gonna remove a little bit of that backing from my flap, pull it back so that I can reach it. And then I'm just going to align it right next to the previous page. Once you have the first page on, the rest is easy. All right. And then just pull it over, make sure it lines up with the previous page. And then we'll burnish in here. And you can kind of use the back of it or your finger or whatever you'd like. All right, and now we'll go ahead and attach pages 3 and 4. So we'll put some glue on this section here, and remember not to go top and bottom all the way. And then remove a bit of that backing. Pull it out so you can reach it. And then just align it to the previous page and pull the rest of that tape out. So I really do believe the glue with the tape is the most effective way of attaching your pages down. All right, and then we'll just do our final page. So our front page here. So we will first add some glue to this section here. And then remove a bit of that backing. Pull it out so you can reach it. Align it to the previous page. And then you can pull out the rest of the backing. All right, so that is all of our beautiful little pages attached in. So now let's work on the inside back. All right, so for the inside back cover, the first thing we need to do is attach a piece of our pattern paper. So it measures 7 3/4 by 7 3/4. And I'm just gonna glue that down first before we do anything else. Just like this. Make sure you get close to your edges. And if it's directional, make sure you're gluing it in the right direction. And we will just center that in there, just like this. All right, and then the next thing you're gonna need is a piece of your cardstock that's 5 by 7, and all the way around you're gonna score 3/8. So 3/8 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, 3/8, and 3/8. All right, and then what we need to do is on all 4 corners, you need to cut up from the bottom to your score line here, okay? Then you're just gonna take a tiny wedge off of the smaller flap, okay? Just like this. So then same thing over here. Cut up to the score line, so cut all the way along straight first. then cut a tiny wedge off your flap, okay? Same thing over here, so cut up, and then basically what we're doing is just cutting out the score line, okay? So cut up, and then cut the score line out. And you can burnish before or after this. That's totally before or after you cut. I guess I did it before, so now we're just gonna burnish all of these down. Just like this. So just burnish it all the way around. It's, you know, it's not a giant thing that you're burnishing, so just kind of be a little bit careful as you go around. My dog is snoring not far away from me here, so if you hear her, I am sorry, but it's either that or I close the door of the craft room and then she claws at the door to come in. So I figure I'll take a little bit of puppy snoring instead. Not that she's a puppy, she's 14. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get some score tape. So I'm just gonna use some 1/4 inch and I'm gonna put it on these little flaps, just on the flaps, okay? I do find you can definitely use glue for this step, but I find the tape is just, it's faster than using the glue, and you're gonna wanna attach it to the outside. So to the side that we folded down, you're gonna attach it to that side. Just like this. Okay, so then we can burnish these down quickly. And then remove the backing. And then just bring them in to form your box. Super simple. Like I said, you can use glue, but I just find this is faster when creating little boxes like this. So just do it all the way around the same way. I have very short nails right now, so struggle bus a little bit. All right, and then just that last one. Make sure you get the corners lined up really nice. Just like that. So that gives us our little box. All right, so now that we've created the box, we have to create the little flaps that are gonna close it in. So for that, you need 1 piece of your heavy cardstock. That's 5 3/8 by 6 1/4. And on the 5 3/8 side, you're going to score at 1/2 and at 1. And then you're gonna need another one for the other side that measures 3 by 6 1/4. And on the 3-inch side, you're gonna score at 1/2 and at 1, okay? And we can go ahead and fold and burnish both of these score lines now. Just like so. All right, and then before we attach them, I'm going to use my corner rounder to round the corners. So I'm gonna round it on this long side. So I'm gonna use the 1/4 inch one, the 1/4 inch side. For both of them. Just like this. All right, so now what we need to do is take our box, and these little 1/2 inch sections are gonna get glued to both sides of our box, okay? But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to not go right up to that edge. I'm gonna try to give it a little bit of leniency, like less than a 1/16 of an inch. So I'm gonna put my glue on here, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna go all the way to the edge. And this would be the back of our flap, okay? So I'm gonna place it and not go all the way up to it, just like a hair away from it. just a hair. Just like this, and then you can make sure it closes over nicely for you. That's why we did that. All right, and then the same thing for this side. I'm gonna put my glue on here, but I'm not gonna go all the way to that edge. Just a hair away. Place it underneath. And then you can just pull back the tiniest bit and just make sure they line up top and bottom as well. Just like this, okay? And then you can burnish inside here and inside here. All right, so before we glue it onto our base, I want to add our pattern papers and the magnets. So what I'm gonna do is, again, I just have these big ones. They're completely unnecessary. What I'm gonna do is I'm first going to take one of my big ones, just like this, and I'm gonna put it kind of in the center on top of my flap here, okay? Then I'm gonna take the other one and remove the backing, just like this, and I'm gonna let it snap there, okay? Then I'm gonna bring it over and I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on this, like this, and I know this isn't gonna hold it. It's just meant to be like a stamp, like a glue stamp. And I'm gonna bring it over and make sure that it stays straight on this corner here. And then that is where we're gonna glue our magnet to. All right, so I'm gonna grab some tape and I'm gonna put my magnet right here, right on top of where that glue was, and add my tape right across it. All right, and then it'll snap closed just like this, and your edges are gonna stay nice and straight for you, okay? So now let's go ahead and add our pattern paper to this. So for the inside back here, we're going to have a piece of our cardstock that's 4x6 right here. And then for the front, we're gonna have a piece of pattern paper that's 4x6. And then for the inside here, I'm going to have another piece of pattern paper that's 4x6. And then here we're going to have another piece that is 1 3/4 by 6. And I'm gonna round the corners on all of these, okay? Except for this one. All right, so we've got all of our pattern papers attached. So now we can put this whole thing in the back here. So I am just going to use my glue. You can feel free to use whatever kind of adhesive that you want. All right, and I'm going to place it so that it is about 1/4 inch from the edge of my book over here, and then just centered top and bottom. Okay, you can certainly measure if you'd like, but I am good with just eyeballing this. So now I'm going to open this up and just press down really well on the inside here. All right, just like that. Okay, so that basically finishes the entire inside of the book. I did do this already here, the inside frame, but I'm going to show you how to do that on the front here. All right, so let's work on the frame here. So again, like I said, we're going to do the exact same thing as I did here. So once I've done this one, you can do your inside as well. It's the same exact process. So what you're going to need is 4 strips of your pattern paper that measure 7 7/8 by 7/8. Okay, so 7/8 wide and 7 7/8 tall. Okay, so what I did with my pattern paper, because it is directional, for my 2 top pieces, I cut them in this direction so that I could see the for the top and bottom pieces, so that the pattern would be going correctly that way. And for my 2 side pieces, I cut them so the pattern would be going correctly for the side, okay? But it's probably the easiest to use non-directional paper for this. So you're going to put them together kind of in a square like this. Then you're going to take a scissor and 2 of your pieces of your pattern paper, your strips, and put them corner to corner like this. If you've followed me for a while, you've seen me do this a lot. So put them on top of each other in the corners here, and then just cut from here up to that corner. So just like this, okay? Then you're going to take this one, so the top strip, and put it together with the other side strip over here. Just like this. And then again, you're going to cut up to that corner. Okay, and you're going to want to make sure they stay where they started. And then I'm going to do the 2, like the side one and the bottom piece. These ones I'm going to flip just because it's easier for me to cut it that way. But then I'm going to make sure they go back exactly how they were. Okay. And then we'll do the final one over here on this side. So this is this side strip and the bottom strip. Make sure they're aligned nicely in the corners. And cut across, okay? Just like this. All right, then we're gonna have to flip the whole thing over. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start on this side, and I'm gonna flip this one to this side. And then I'm gonna flip this one over here. And this one over here. And this one will go here. And you just want to make sure the whole time they stay aligned with the ones they're supposed to stay with, okay? Then I'm going to take a little bit of tape. You can use any size tape for this. It really doesn't matter. And I'm going to line up the corners just like this. And I'm going to put a little piece of tape. Then the same thing here. Line up your corners. Put a piece of tape. And then these 2 down here. Just make sure they're nice and lined up, that they're not on top of each other or underneath each other. And then put your tape. And then we'll do the final one here. Make sure they stay aligned. All right, then you can take your piece to your book and just kind of dry fit it. This looks like it fits really nice. And so you should have a border on the inside of the black and a border on the outside of the black, okay? So now I'm gonna remove my backings here of the tape we put on. The tape is just there to hold it in place. I do use glue to attach it, the beacon, because it's movable, and that's very important. So put glue all over this. Just like so. And then just take the whole thing, carefully pick it up, and flip it onto your cover, but make sure you don't get any on your acetate. Super important. And then just line it up. And don't really press down too hard until you know that everything is mostly where you want it. All right, and that is how we do our cover. And you're gonna do the exact same thing for the inside here, okay? That's how you'll finish that. And now I don't know exactly, I mean, to me it looks beautiful just like this. I don't know exactly what else I wanna do here, but we'll see. So for now, this is finished for me. So now for the spine, you'll need a piece of your pattern paper that's 2 3/8 by 7 7/8. And it's just gonna go right here on the spine. Let's glue it on quickly. So 2 3/8 by 7 7/8. And this is not directional, so I can pop it on however I want. And then the back will be 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. And I'm just gonna use this pretty pattern here. And again, I'm just using my glue. And this one is directional, so I'm making sure to get it lined up nicely. Just like that. All right, and that finishes our baby boy version of this album, and then this was our baby girl version. So in the walkthrough, you're gonna see the baby girl version, and then we did the baby boy, and I think they are both equally cute. So thank you guys so much for joining me for this tutorial. I really enjoyed bringing it to you, and I hope you enjoy getting to finish it now. And I will talk to you guys all again very soon. If you haven't yet, I would love if you would like the video and subscribe and chat with me anytime you want if you have any questions in the comment section below. All right, guys, bye-bye.